The mainstream media is completely obsessed with the adult film actress Stormy Daniels, and probably many Americans are obsessed about it too, since her interview on 60 Minutes had scored more than 22 million viewers. That's the largest viewership in 10 years for 60 Minutes. But does this news deserve this much attention? And North Korea's dictator Kim Jong-un made a surprise visit to China. It is believed that he wrapped up an unprecedented trip to the Chinese capital ahead of a planned summit with South Korea and also a meeting with United States President Donald Trump. So why did Kim have a secret summit with China? We'll analyze it. Hi, I'm Michael Wan, your host for Michael Wan's Op-Ed Live, and this is Ben Pak, former deputy for California Senate Pro Tem Kevin De Leon and candidate for the California Board of Equalization seat. Our show, Op-Ed Live, is not about left or right, it's about what's right or wrong. So Ben, how is your campaign going so far?
Thank you for always asking. It's going great. I'm getting endorsements. I'm getting more exposure. I'm collecting more campaign funds. Therefore, it's going great. I feel great, and I know that the outcome is going to be very, very good for me.
Okay, that's good. That is good news. Okay, let's get on with our first topic. 11 days before the 2016 election, Donald Trump's personal attorney paid a porn star named Stormy Daniels to keep quiet about her alleged relationship with Trump. And Trump at that time was a Republican candidate for president. Through his spokesman, Trump has denied having an affair with Stormy Daniels, and his lawyers are now threatening her with a lawsuit saying she has to pay $1 million every time she violates her agreement to stay silent. But that didn't stop her from coming on 60 Minutes, right?
Yes.
So did you watch the interview, Ben?
I actually recorded it and then watched it thereafter. Yes. Actually, I watched it twice to see if I had missed anything.
Okay.
And
because it's such an important issue, yeah.
And the funny thing, and I have to fess up to you, I had not watched 60 Minutes probably in 10 years.
Okay.
And I actually did watch
So you were one of the
22 million people that watched. You know, this one goes kind of beyond just the scandal. I think there's a lot of political implications in regards to the payment, who paid it, how it was paid, when it came out. Because if, in fact, I mean, it is a fact that the attorney paid, you know, the $130,000, then that is viewed as a contribution. And
election contribution.
Yes, because it was done to protect the candidate on behalf of the candidate. And if that's the case, then there could be some violation of ethics when it comes to contribution. Not only that, does this warrant that much attention by the media? They're loving it. I mean, it seems like she is probably one of the most popular subjects. And, you know, people demonize her because she's a porn star. And it's like, why do we have to pay so much attention? But it kind of goes underneath of it. One of the interesting things that I found out following this news is that more than 30 to 40% of the bandwidth of the internet is dedicated to porn. Really? Yes, to porn. They say that the porn industry has 6 times more bandwidth than Hulu does.
Wow. It's probably the largest, then, I would think, if it's 30 to 40%. I mean,
34%. Right? You know, what does that mean? Is that people are sort of mocking her, and they're saying all these things. She's only a porn star. Does she really have credibility? But at the same time, underneath of it, if 30 to 40% of Americans or worldwide are, you know, downloading or watching porn, what does that mean? So I was even kind of like thinking, people support that industry, but in public, they're making a mockery out of her. What's her reason, or why does she have to do this? I think she's trying to just clear her name, or trying to make herself present her side of the story, because everybody thinks that she has some kind of agenda. I'm pretty sure she does, but at the same time, I think she's there to clear her name.
Okay. So Trump's personal lawyer named Michael Cohen, he was the one who used a third company to pay off $130,000, and he said that Trump didn't order him to do so. He did it out of loyalty. We all know that. Anybody who followed politics know that Michael Cohen is one of Trump's very closest lawyers. So I don't know. There might be some kind of violation? We don't know so far. But what I think this is crazy, what's going on right now. Covering Stormy Daniels to this extent. I've never seen, like, CNN. I watched some CNN shows last week. It's all Stormy Daniels, all the way, every program. It was all covering, they were all covering Stormy Daniels. But I remember, do you remember when Bill Clinton was involved in these kind of, the sexual scandals with Monica Lewinsky? We remember Monica Lewinsky,
absolutely.
Right? But do we remember Juanita Broderick? We don't, right? Do we remember Paula Jones?
Yes.
We don't. I mean, you do, but many people don't. Kathleen Woolley, Jennifer Flowers. These ladies came out, but the mainstream media, I researched about it. ABC didn't cover it. They covered 0 minutes. NBC covered it. No, CBS covered 0 minutes. NBC covered only 1.5 minutes or something like that. But this Stormy Daniels, I bet it's more than hours and hours. I mean, if you collect all the media, ABC, NBC, CBS, the three major networks, I checked how much time they consumed regarding Stormy Daniels. It was 40 minutes since March. So this is why people say this is bias. There is clearly a media bias. If they want to cover it this much, how come they always cover it to this extent when it happens to a conservative or a Republican politician or people like Donald Trump, who is not a liberal? Juanita Broderick, she said she got raped by Bill Clinton in Little Rock, Arkansas hotel room. Can you imagine if a lady came out and said if she claimed she got raped by Donald Trump? It would be front page news for the New York Times for the rest of this year. I would guarantee you that. And then there's another lady called Kathleen Woolley. She said Clinton groped her buttocks while Clinton was in White House Oval Office. She said he grabbed her when she was in the Oval Office. And Jennifer Flowers, she claimed she had a 12-year affair with Bill Clinton. So where was the mainstream media on that?
Well, times are different. And I do remember when Jennifer Flowers and the people that you mentioned did come out, and it was covered. Because I do remember it was covered.
But it wasn't covered to this extent.
Seems like, and I'll have to give you this, CNN, Fox, and MSNBC or any of the networks, now they're different. They're kind of capitalizing on Trump, whether you are supportive or you're not supportive of it. It has become sort of their bread and butter. I think that's why they cover it.
Exactly true.
Once again, whether you're left or right. With that being said, Trump, you have 16, 18, now it's like 19 women accusing him, and nobody covers that. Or at least most
covered it heavily, right?
Most of the people don't know their names or their
election, right?
But okay, now that is the sitting president. One of the things that actually is interesting about this whole accusation is that now they opened it up that you can sue the president for defamation or for liability or all this, and then they cleared that. So we'll see how people who have been accused, whether they'll bring up lawsuits against it. I think bottom line is that sensational news sells. Yeah. Therefore, whether you're CNN, Fox, MSNBC, ABC, or any of these networks are going to cover it, because look what happened with 60 Minutes. They just announced it, and they had the best rating in over 10 years. Yeah. And somebody like me who never watched it for the last 10 years, I tuned in. So, how can you not do it? And what makes it even more interesting, Stormy Daniels, although she's a porn star, she does come across, credible, and she does do a good interview. If she was a nut job or somebody totally unreliable, you would not have the same type of coverage. Mm-hmm. But when she sits in front of a camera, the story, the way she tells, the fact that she took a lie detector and all that makes it into a good story for people to cover.
Since she's a porn star, probably many people already heard about Stormy Daniels. I didn't know her, to be honest with you. I never heard about her. Probably she might be a superstar in her world. But I was thinking about, I didn't watch it when it was on CBS, but I was just, flipping the news on my, cell phone, and there was the CBS News and it was there and I clicked it. So I did watch it.
Okay.
I didn't watch it on TV, but I watched it, you know. And I couldn't help but watch it. I wanted to hear what she had to say because it was, you know, it was pumped up for the past 1 week that she's going to have this 60 minutes interview. I mean, you couldn't escape it. So I watched it. And what I don't understand is she decided to then sign this non-disclosure agreement. Got paid $130,000.
Correct.
11 days before the presidential election.
Correct.
Probably her thought process was Trump, many people thought that he cannot become the next president of the United States. They gave him no chance. New York Times put it like 3% chance or something like that. So she thought, probably now I have the maximum bargaining power to, you know, get the most money that I can. So she drew that line and she got $130,000. But Trump became president, right? And then she's saying, oh man, I took it too low. You know, I should have called at least $1 million. I think she had this tremendous regret afterwards, after the election. And now she's doing all this. She got all the attention, probably more than $1 million worth of attention. Now people all know Stormy Daniels. She's in history book. Not in a good way, I would say, but she's in the book. But I just think that this lady has a very dirty agenda, you know. Then why did she accept that money in the first place? That's the question that I want to ask her.
Well, you know, non-disclosure, I think you're right. Probably thought, not going to win. This is what the most I can get, and she did it. And you also said, now became president, and she's like, oh crap, I could have gotten more money.
Exactly.
So that's her agenda. I mean, I think there is two prongs. One, she needs to set the record straight as to what happened, and her bargaining chip is that President Trump never signed the non-disclosure agreement. And the legal implications, we're going to see whether she truly does own $20 million, because each time she mentioned it, she is violating the non-disclosure agreement. But, you know, I've seen interviews of her attorney. He sounds pretty credible. He sounds pretty knowledgeable. Okay. And you also have the attorneys who originally did this. Now, I don't know who is the one who leaked this whole thing from the very beginning. Okay. I believe it was the president's attorney. Yes.
Do you think he was the one who leaked this story?
He didn't leak it, but he actually mentioned it, you know, somewhere, somehow. And then
accidentally?
I don't know whether it was over drinks or something, but he is the one that kind of opened up the can of worms.
So he might be an insider who's against Trump. That's what you're saying, right? There might be a
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, you know, a lot of times when it comes to politics or anything else, you like to boast as to what you did, how you're like responsible.
So in that sense,
you know, I'm a protector of the president and I did this. You know, do you know that I was the attorney who actually protected him in that sort of sense? And then somebody picked that up and it's like, wait a minute, what? Non-disclosure against a porn star? And then that's how it kind of
Are you talking about the Wall Street Journal report? Is that how it was reported?
You know, I don't know where the genesis of how this whole thing came about, but we know for a fact that Stormy Daniels was not the first person to kind of come out and talk about this.
So I heard that many parents, many school kids' parents have a difficult time talking about this issue because, you know, it's a porn star. You know, they feel very uncomfortable talking about, you know, President Trump being involved in, you know, these kind of scandals. What do you think about in that perspective? What do you think the parents should say?
You know, one of the things that was interesting to me is she has her own child that is 11 years old, 11 or 12 years old. It's like, how do you explain that, you know, if I was a parent and I was in that industry, it's like, how do you explain that? And because you cannot shy away from the internet unless you are living in North Korea. Probably even North Korea, they have access, but you cannot hide the fact. How do you talk about this? I think if your child is of a certain age, totally understands this, and then like my kids, I never kind of sheltered them too much about news or anything that was that came out, because I felt that they're either going to hear from me or they're going to hear from their friends, and their friends probably already have a biased opinion because came from their parents or the wrong source. So in my perspective or the way I kind of talk about it openly, and then that way they can have questions openly, because the fact of the matter is that it is here, is big news, and people probably in junior high and high school, they talk about it. So you do kind of have to present it just straightforward.
Okay.
You cannot shy away from it.
I'll give my last word about this. Anyway, Paula Jones, the lady, she said she got paid $850,000, and she had an interview with New York Times last year, and she said, it's like me and Juanita Broderick, and Kathleen Woolley have been screaming for years for someone to pay attention to us on the liberal side.
Okay.
And it's like no one would hear us. They made fun of me. They didn't believe me. They said I was making it up. And even during the Me Too campaign, Bill Clinton was accused of raping Juanita Broderick. They said the Me Too campaign somehow eluded her. And when they came out, they did an interview yesterday. They came out on TV, Juanita Broderick, and they were complaining about how come they always, cover the Republican side, conservative side. I do think that there is some kind of merit to that. And many people would see this whole attacking, Trump about this Stormy Daniels issue as a very politically motivated news.
Well, the fact that the attorney representing Stormy Daniels is well connected.
He was well connected with the Democratic Party.
Yes, yeah. So, there may be some truth to it.
Opposition research firm.
Yeah.
Used to work
So
for
both attorneys, both sides, I think it is politically motivated, but I do kind of have to agree with you. The media is just sensationalizing this whole thing, and that there lies the true motive of why this is the whole thing. In regards to just on closing, like you said, you mentioned all these ladies that never were sort of like credited or sort of like when the Me Too campaign came out. I think whether it's Obama, Clinton, Bush, or any of the presidents, even going all the way back to Abraham Lincoln and Washington, when it comes to the president of the United States, whether Republican or Democrat, there is this sort of like umbrella mentality that you got to protect the president. The president of the United States is untouchable.
Yeah.
And I think, I think that's unfair, because in the United States, nobody should be above the law, but somehow, whether Republican or Democrat, there is that mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we move on to our next topic. North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, is believed to have a trip to the Chinese capital ahead of a planned summit with South Korean President Moon Jae-in, and also a meeting with President Donald Trump. According to many reports, there is a very high possibility that Kim was in Beijing after speculation began swirling late Monday about the arrival of a high-level North Korean official. CNN reported the rumors started after images were shared online of what appeared to be a train that belongs to North Korea's ruling Kim family arriving in Beijing. And the rumors intensified as security officials closed roads outside the state guest house, where North Korean leaders have previously stayed. If Kim did make the journey from Pyongyang to the Chinese capital, it will be the first time he has left his home country since taking power after his father, Kim Jong-il's death in 2011. So Ben, do you think he stopped by Beijing yesterday? There was a report right before our show from Hangyeole, Korean paper, that they did indeed meet. Kim Jong-un with Xi Jinping, China's president.
And yesterday, I remember seeing on the news, mysterious train. Mysterious train. So, I mean, I would think that the conversation was ongoing and something had to prompt Kim Jong-un to go to China, because, look, who is the biggest benefactor of North Korea? Who is the one who actually protects and then keeps it still in power? If China was not there, I think North Korea would have ceased to exist long time ago.
Exactly.
And with Xi Jinping actually fortifying his power, and then actually now that he's probably going to be
president for life.
For life, therefore now you do have to go and kiss the ring.
Yes.
And you do have to get certain permission if you're going to meet with the United States, because North Korea cannot make any deals with the United States without unofficial Chinese approval. And whatever had to be done prompted him to go in person, because obviously certain things cannot be discussed over the phone or satellite, because I don't care how much encryption you have, and then the Chinese and the Russians and North Koreans are the best at hacking.
Yeah.
Therefore, probably there's no encryption in the world that you can stop from listening to certain things. Therefore, he had to go to China.
I think since Kim Jong-un planned to meet with South Korea's President Moon Jae-in next month, and also after that, he's going to supposedly meet with President Trump. And North Korea has been sanctioned by UN, and China also, their relationship with China, I think, obviously has been strained because China also complied with the UN sanctions too. So their relationship has been strained. For sort of Xi Jinping's point of view, I think he was probably felt a little bit left out, having this South Korea meeting and United States summit meeting. So probably he wanted to have his say about this whole situation. And some in the media were saying that probably this might be a turning point for North Korea to be a little bit pro-America. I mean, there has been report last Friday from 중앙일보 that that North Korea wants even investment coming from America instead of giving up their nuclear aspirations. So I think Xi Jinping was the one who said, hey, let's meet. I think he was the one who asked first, and then that's why Kim Jong-un came. We don't know the exact details. Probably we might not know it for a while, but I think that's how this whole meeting came about.
Sanctions that are done from China to North Korea are completely meaningless because China has offshore companies established everywhere from Singapore to Nigeria to Somalia, and then they divert any type of sanction that is imposed. That's how they circumvent in order to provide North Korea and all these rogue nations.
They got caught a couple of times last year when Trump mentioned it.
Well, yes, but at the same time, all they have to do is say, well, it wasn't us, and then when it's not big enough, kind of people forget. Yeah, I do track it, and I've known that they get caught because one of them was because they had an accident, and that's how they found out that it was sort of going to North Korea through a different flag, but ultimately it was owned or financed by the Chinese. Once again, North Korea cannot be trusted, and then China, as much as is becoming and it is a world power, there are still things that the Chinese do, and they don't really play by the rules.
Yeah.
And North Korea, when they say they want investment, all they're saying is that we want more money to make our nuclear program better.
So you will never believe them, right?
Once again, this has been the history of his dad and his grandfather, and then the breaking any type of pact or any type of agreement has been the status quo. And then the behavior that the son has shown, for the past 6-7 years, does not tell me anything that he truly. How can an individual change overnight? I just don't buy it right now.
So, what do you think we should do then? If a country is so hell-bent on building up nuclear weapons, I mean, do we have? So then we go back to the John Bolton. John Bolton, the new national security advisor, incoming national security advisor. He said we have to do something. If we have the premise that they're not going to change, then we have to go in now before it's too late. Then it goes to that logic.
Not that far. I think conversation does have to happen. I think, like I told you, in the many conversations we had, China is truly the key role here. And I think if they feel that this is truly beneficial to the whole area of Asia, they do have to make concessions and force Korea to actually keep to the rule if there is agreement made. But if China keeps their hands off, then North Korea will do what they've been doing. So in my opinion, it's always been China and Russia do have the biggest influence of North Korea, and the conversation needs to happen. I welcome and I actually look forward to South Korean president meeting with North Korea, and I don't know if it's going to be a three-party talk or it's going to be just Kim Jong-un and Trump meeting in the United States.
One-on-one.
Yeah, and once again, John Bolton may have some influence. It does scare me, the rhetoric that he presents, because he seems to be sort of like all or nothing. There is sort of like no diplomacy in between. At the same time, you know, President Trump seems to do whatever the hell he wants to do, and then whatever advisors say, don't listen.
Right.
In that very sense, I'm like, okay, please don't listen to him. So,
well, what I think is, I want to be a little bit of an optimist. I think probably Donald Trump, I think he is a good deal maker. So if he does, you know, make a deal that North Korea do denuclearize themselves, then they have to have some kind of inspection system, probably a 24/7 inspection system in exchange to some kind of investment. You know, we did that with South Korea, did invest in North Korea. Been deceived all the time, but I think America is a different game. Even in North Korea's perspective, I think it would be different for them to have business with the United States with having business with South Korea. So if you let them have some kind of investment, if that's what they want, then North Korea, Kim Jong-un has to allow them to have a 24/7 inspection system or something close to that in order for this whole thing, which sounds very daunting right now, but in order for this whole thing to work, there has to be a lot of concession, especially on the North Korea side.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think spot inspections, where a different team goes in every time, and then they go every 3 months, that wouldn't work because a lot can happen.
Exactly.
If they're stationed there and they're given full access, then that's a totally different game.
Yeah.
It would be very difficult for a team who lives there and then they're overseeing this to be sort of like deceived, because when movement happens or you see a bunch of trucks going into some random tunnel, then you know something is going on there.
Exactly.
But if you go every 3 months, every 6 months, or once a year,
It's useless.
they're the best. You know, I mean, everybody do say that the tallest hotel in North Korea, only 5 floors are operational. You know,
And the electricity doesn't work, and
they
stuff like
turn
that.
it down.
They turn it down.
Everything else. So they're very good at putting a show, and they will make sure that they'll put up a good show if the UN inspectors go every 3 to 6 months.
And hopefully it turns out to be something positive. Well, that's our show for today. Our show is not about left or right. It's about being right or wrong. To stay up to date with our latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.